Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Daily AI Show Live. It's Wednesday, so it is time for Big AI News. I am Jumi, and I am joined by Beth and Andy. And today we're going to go through the wonderful world of AI and all of its great news. I've already heard in the back channels that Beth has tons of news to give to us. So let's start off with that. Beth, what do you got?
All right. So first is OpenAI has released in small alpha the advanced voice mode. So go update your mobile app and sorry, probably iPhone only for now, but go update your mobile app and see if your headphone that indicated you want to go in voice mode has changed the icon. And if you hit that, then you'll get a like, hey, you're invited into the advanced voice mode. And this is some stuff you need to know. And then you'll be able to use it. It's a small group of plus users right now. I do not have it. Polling the panel. Andy, are you no?
No, got nothing as of last night. I didn't check this morning though. But I don't have an iPhone either. I'm on Android, so I'm sure we're going to be on the next batch. Did OpenAI say how large of a group that they're opening this up to, or anything like that?
It specifically said a small group. So it sort of said how large of a group in that it is small, but no, it gave no indication of like percentage of users or any of that. We have started to see some stories on X coming through and saying, wow, this is amazing. The ones that are most popular right now are there's one asking to improve their French pronunciation, right? Because this version of advanced voice can hear you, right? Can hear your pronunciation, is actually engaging in with you in terms of the not just the text equivalent of what you're saying, but actually how you're saying it.
So not just how you're saying it, but it understands the emotional qualities of your expression, which is really a major advancement. So not only is it attuning to the words and the semantics of what's being said, but also the inflection and other voice variations that indicate emotion and what your state of mind is. So its ability to understand and respond to emotions in real-time conversations has huge use cases in everything from customer support to personal support and emotional support.
Yeah. And actually tomorrow's show is about, does AI have greater empathy than humans? And that is way before any of this. Like what we're talking about does not include advanced voice mode's ability to understand your emotions, although there has been another voice company that
Indeed, one of my comments tomorrow is going to certainly be, and I'll repeat it now, that one of the skills that humans seem to lose is active listening, and being able to attend with focus on what's being said and how it's being said, and then pause to respond. But AI can do that better, right? Humans are constantly trying to figure out what to say next in their rumination, whereas an AI has multitasking capabilities. It can be listening and formulating response at the same time through its architecture. I don't know that humans have that skill.
Right. Well, and we talk about that all the time, right? Like humans to a certain extent have like one track. We can be thinking about one thing at a time. When we think that we are multitasking, we're actually sequentially single tasking. Right. So like we're doing this, then we're doing this, then we're doing this. AI does not have that limitation. AI literally has multi-tracks, right?
Right. Can
And
the
ability to swarm, right? Like we're not even talking about the ability for multi-tracks to come together, and now you have multi-tracks, right? So yeah, those are official. Like 2023 was so order of magnitude. Now we're just going multi everybody. So that was my first OpenAI story. The second OpenAI story is a little bit under the radar, but they have it's another alpha program that they're releasing to devs, which is a long output window. And the long output window is 64K, is 64,000 tokens. Now, just to put that into context, average output windows is somewhere between 4,000 tokens and 8,000 tokens. And if they're very, very nice, they give you 16. 64 is so much bigger than that, right? 64. Well, one of the people that was referencing this was like, can I actually generate a book with 2 prompts?
Right. A 300-page book in 2
right?
prompts, right?
And,
yeah.
And of course, the answer is it's unlikely to be a good book, right? But you could conceivably have AI generate 300 pages. So those are the 2 things. Yeah.
How does the 64K output window compare to the other models, like for Claude and I guess for Gemini and things like that?
So Gemini is 8,000. Claude, I think, is also 8,000. Like the other models have gone in the other direction, right? Claude has a 200,000K input window, context window, so it can keep all of that in its memory context brain, however you want to say that. But then it's giving you this 8,000 output. You can get more than that by saying continue, right? So if you're asking for like a much longer paper than that 8,000 token output could do, or with Claude and Artifact, if it's generating code for you and it interrupts it can't continue the code because it's too long now, you can hit continue and have it do that. But yeah, no one is even close in the other models. Again, Gemini has 1 million to 2 million context window, which is massive and wonderful and all of that, but you are limited to that 8,000 output.
Gotcha. And just to clarify, that's a dev release.
That's a dev release. That's API. Right. I checked yesterday. It's not available in the playground. And I did not see any, it's not added to the APIs that you can go look at and do that kind of stuff. It is more expensive. It is, I believe it's $6 for input and $18 for output for the 1 million token, which is typical the way that they price things. That's just much more expensive than other things. But again, like, wow.
Yeah. That's a huge shift. Well, I want to take a second and welcome Carl. Thanks for joining us. And of course, let's put you in the hot seat. What's your story for today?
Well, since you're all my friends, I want to talk about friends. So,
hey, there we go. Perfect.
So there is a new tool, not a tool, a new wearable. It's called friend.com. And
what happened to my friend Rabbit?
Your friend Rabbit can now be friends with friend.com. I'd love to actually put one to the other and see how they all play nice. So there is this pendant that you now wear, and it's your friend. If you go to friend.com, and we're all talking about how did this person pay for the URL friend.com, must have been through the nose. But essentially, you speak your mind or whatever you want to say, your friend will overhear it and then come up with something good to say. That's literally it. And do you need your phone? Yes, you do need a phone. It's connected to your device. I think it's only on iOS. What happens if, I know some questions that people would have is, what happens if you break the device? Well, your friend and the memories with your friend are attached to the device. So if you lose or damage it, there's no recovery plan. You're probably thinking, how is my privacy protected? Audio transcripts stored in your context window, in your friend's context window. Apparently, data is end-to-end encrypted, so all memories can be deleted with one click with your friend. And is your friend always listening? When it's connected to Bluetooth, your friend is always listening and forming their own internal thoughts. It says here, we have given your friend free will for when they decide to reach out to you. So I can just imagine if you're having a conversation, whatever kind of conversation, especially deep conversations, and this thing comes out and says something, it would just make the conversation even more awkward. So that's how I see this thing called friend.com. And I saw it over X, and then I saw some people post the receipt, because obviously it's in pre-order, so I don't even know when this product will be launching. So right. I think this goes towards, yes, it goes towards the wearables, but for me, and I think I'm a little bit more concerned about where this is going in terms of human to human interaction, because I'm a really big believer in, while AI is amazing at tasks, goals, AI agents, and so on, I do believe we may be hitting a turning point where some people, or a lot more people, are having more difficulty with human to human connection, human to human conversation, how to talk to people, right? I was listening to a couple of Simon Sinek talks, whether you agree with some of the things he says or not, but he's just saying that because we have our devices, because AI, well, he didn't even talk about AI, but I think like with the ability to create characters, create people, create friends, such as this product, character AI, so on, we're losing the ability to interact with real people who aren't as predictable or can't be prompted to act or behave a certain way, because we are all unpredictable, even though we have tendencies based on the situation we're in, based on, how we're feeling that day, all our experiences. That's what makes humans humans. It's just harder to have that conversation now with things that you can prompt. And the last point I want to make is, I was listening to how, especially today, and I'm so happy that I don't have to experience this, where, in the dating scene, people have hard times, interacting, because a lot of it's, you have to go through online first. But imagine with AI tools, your concept of a person or your significant other or a partner is going to be much different than when you put that person in real life. And what I fear is people are creating an archetype, and it isn't just an archetype in your mind. One of my favorite person, you actually become Delulu because you have this concept, or you've prompted this concept of an archetype of a person, of a partner, but then when you meet that person, it's very different. So that's the kind of thought process I had, not the AI specifically, but more about like the human to human connection and the contact that I think people may be missing out on.
Yeah, and I know it's stated that the purpose is to help fill a need, right, with this particular device, where there's been a huge increase in loneliness and things like that. But that opens that discussion that we were talking about, was like, does this help self-perpetuate that whole process of removing further and further away, which I think will be a great discussion for tomorrow's episode, because we're just talking about AI and emotional connection there. But I want to give Andy a moment here to bring up what's your top story, Andy?
Well, I think the big story really is the release of two different, very advanced frontier level open source models. Meta released Llama 3.1, 405B, 70B, and 8B models. And those immediately jumped up to the top of the leaderboards in many, many of the disciplines that are, ranked in benchmarks. And I'll share my screen in a moment and show you some of those leaderboards. The thing that's astounding about that is that open source means that anyone can take that model, all the weights, and now start to play with it and tune it in any way you like. So developers now have access to models that are as competent as the ones that are the most expensive efforts by OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. So that's one of the two. Meta, that's Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, releasing into the wild, open source for free. You can use it. Something that's beating the closed source models. Now, not forever, because this is a race, right? They're in the process of training with much larger compute costs, and Elon Musk's over there training his XAI thing called Grok with an even larger cluster and compute that will get to even greater performance on all of these benchmarks. So, but at the same time, literally in the same week that Meta released this Llama 3.1 version, Mistral, which is the other major player in open source, released Mistral Large 2. Now it's OpenAI, I'm sorry, Meta's is a 405 billion parameter model. Mistral Large 2 is a 123 billion parameter model designed to be so efficient that it can run on a single NVIDIA H100 cluster. Now that's compact, and it outperforms or matches models like GPT-4o, Opus 3, and Llama 3 405B, not Llama 3.1 necessarily, but it hasn't been, these are so new. Those two haven't actually found their way onto the same leaderboard that I could find anyway. So now let me share my screen and show you what that looks like, because there's a player out there that's always at the top of these leaderboards, and there's be a quiz. There's a quiz in this show. You have to write down on a piece of paper which model you think it is, and our panel here can say which model they think it is. That's always playing up there at the top of the charts while I prepare this thing. Which one is it, guys?
I'll throw out a guess. Playing near the top all the time is gonna be Claude. Claude's always going to be up there at the top.
Specific Claude model, you're right. Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So now I should be sharing my screen, right? Can you see my screen? No? There it is. It just takes a while to come up on StreamYard. I'm not sure why. Okay, so here's the, we talked on a prior show about a company called Scale, which provides data to all the major training systems. And they've created a leaderboard that is not hackable. You can't find the questions on the benchmarks in the Scale leaderboard. So the Scale organization is like, none of the players who are fighting for a position on these leaderboards can game that system by training on the tests, if you will. So they've got hidden tests, but here's their leaderboards for instruction following and math. You see here, first place, Llama 3.150 405B Instruct, and right behind it, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and then GPT-4o and so on. Over here in math, in first place, Claude 3.5 Sonnet still, even against this latest model from Meta and against Claude 3 Opus. It's presumably more advanced model and larger scale model. There are some other benchmarks up here, including in coding, where Claude 3.5 Sonnet is the leader, followed by GPT-4 Turbo Preview and then GPT-4o. And then you find these two, which are major players in coding, Llama 3.1 405B now, and Gemini 1.5 Pro, which is a go-to model for those things. So any comments on the leaderboards and the emergence of these major open source models?
Can you scroll down a little bit and just show us the coding, and then scroll up.
Yeah. Yep.
Adversarial robustness and coding. Got it. Okay.
There you go. Yeah. Those are the two things here. I'm not sure exactly. I'd have to click on learn more and understand what adversarial robustness means. It's another benchmark that isn't clear on Hugging Face or other places, but it's a curiosity. Okay, that's the main one. I've got a few others that are of interest later.
So I want to jump on that because related to open source and open weights, the Department of Commerce released their recommendation, their statement. And it's the National Telecommunications and Information Administration, which is under the Department of Commerce in the United States. Today, NTIA is issuing policy recommendations in support of making the key components of powerful AI models widely available. These open weight models allow developers to build upon and adapt previous work, broadening the AI tools availability to small companies, researchers, nonprofits, and individuals. So they have come out in support of monitoring, but not limiting. Let me get that actual wording. Monitoring, but not mandating restrictions of open AI models.
Okay, so
and actually,
are they creating policy?
This literally, oh guys, you gotta just like have some techie read your stuff, because in fact what this says is I'm on the Department of Commerce website. This is the report. Fact sheet. NTIA AI report calls for monitoring but not mandating restrictions of open AI models. Hey, so OpenAI is a brand name in this like thing. Could we get open source, open weight, like shift that slightly? We know you're watching us every day, Department of Commerce. Like, but that's what they mean. They're coming out in support. They're coming out in support of openness and not restricting, but monitoring from a government level.
Right, but they're okay. So this is like there's an open. I guess back to my question is: are they making policy? Are they moving forward legislation that says, "Hey, you need to release your weights for all models," or is this just a statement for them saying that they're going to try and push forward more open source?
They are an agency, so they can't make legislation or policy.
Right.
But they are, I think, coming out with a really big platform, right? As the experts as one of the expert agencies, organizations in the U.S. government, and that this is their point of view, and then ideally that informs the way that Congress moves legislation forward.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes it a little more clear for me. Sorry. Sort of tangential to the open source idea or theme, but speaking specifically about Mistral, is they just entered in a deal with BNP Paribas, which is a huge international banking organization, so that Mistral will design specific models to for their banking organization, specifically for international banking. So if you're wondering like where does open source really cross over with enterprise, this is a perfect example of that. So if a large banking organization is going to use their foundational work for their own banking system or infrastructure, that's a great sign that this is really solid, right? And to try and pivot in that, I do have a short 1-2 theme here, and that is we are starting to see acquisitions. We've seen it off and on before, but 2 big acquisitions are happening or have happened or announced. Canva has merged with or purchased Leonardo.ai. And if you're not familiar, Leonardo is one of the leading Gen AI companies out there. They had like 120 or more employees working on research and development so that they can do more image generation and things like that. They were a competitor to Midjourney and working within that space. So Canva just consumed a huge boost to their generative AI capabilities. And we've already seen that they've made specific inroads into providing really great generative AI tools in their service. They're really coming for Adobe's lunch. And so I think this is just going to be a huge uptick in their offerings. Yeah.
Excellent. I want to just jump in to say I looked up what Scale's adversarial robustness measure is, and as ought to have been discernible from the term, it's a test of how resistant the model is to being caused to do or to deliver information that could be harmful. So at the top of that leaderboard is Gemini 1.5 Pro with only 8 violations. GPT-4o by contrast is 67 violations. So you can hack GPT-4o easier and get it to do something like tell you how to make a bomb than you can Gemini 1.5 Pro, or the second in the leaderboard there is Llama 3.1405B Instruct, the latest open source model.
Right.
So I wanted to say about Meta. This is a major player in the world of AI, and they announced something called AI Studio Tool. And it gives us a peek into what's going to happen when Meta gives all of their billions of users a tool that really can work without much coding skill and no prompting required, so to speak. So they're creating personalized AI chatbots for Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. Now think of all the creators out there. There's an enormous influencer and creator economy out there. Now Meta is going to allow this AI Studio tool to give them chatbots, even probably avatars of themselves, that can do customized interactions with their followers and full control over replies in the hands of the creator. So that's an advancement, goes way beyond, in some respects, just because of the potential scale. The corporate chatbots that have been kind of the stuff of the early developments in AI interactions in customer service, customer support, and everything. Now imagine every single creator out there can turn on through AI and Meta's AI Studio an interactive avatar that's trained on their content continuously and can behave naturally and provide a personalized experience to their followers.
I'm going to comment on that because I'm curious to know, in this age of we want more authenticity, we're looking for authentic conversation, or a lot of the content that does very, very well on places like TikTok, maybe even Instagram, are the ones that very lo-fi, very low production. You want to connect with a person. I'm curious to see, what are your thoughts on, you're now interacting with not a real, let's say, for example, let's say Mr. Beast. We take Mr. Beast and you create an avatar of Mr. Beast. I'm curious to see maybe for a creator that big, the conversation maybe people will want, but for much smaller creators, I'm curious, and I have my doubts on if people want to interact with a not real version of that creator and what that avatar will actually do.
I think I think that question comes back to what we were talking about earlier with friend.com and just the larger issue that we'll address in tomorrow's episode. But essentially, I think a lot of people are at a point right now where it's either a combination of they're just looking for information, right? They don't want to bother other people, nor do they want to go through the niceties of like, okay, I don't know who this person is. How do I reach out to them? there's some anxiety involved and things like that. And I think all of those situations in our social landscape, again, I guess, is all heightened, right? Just people. There's a reason why most people don't use their cell phones to make phone calls, because people don't call anybody anymore. They text. Why? Because there's that slight separation and less expectation for conversing or communicating. I just need you to answer this question at some point in time, maybe later today. I don't need to stop what you're doing right now and actually call you and have a verbal conversation. So I think it's along that kind of system of thinking. Now, whether in the long term that's good or not, I think I think we can talk about that in tomorrow's episode. So come back.
So one other point about that, they released this, but then they announced quietly a couple of days ago that they are sunsetting the big chatbot experience that they paid, right? That was Tom Brady, but not called Tom Brady, but right, like there were
Snoop Dogg was on there. Yeah.
So they what this sounds like to me is that they're understanding that was really not successful. They've sunk a ton of costs, not just to license their likenesses and their voices, but actually to build this chatbot kind of engine. And it seems to me that this is a repackaging of, hey, we've got this in the corner, no one's using it. Can we repackage it and see if it's going to be of advantage to anybody else? Because again, what Meta is doing, what Meta gets value from, is our engagement on their platform.
Yeah, let me give you my point of view, Carl. I think it's purely a matter of scale. It's not possible to have real-time, authentic interactions with Taylor Swift, right? She's not going to respond to you. But if a really articulate and well-governed representation of her could really give you the experience of a dynamic and empathetic conversation with Taylor Swift, I think there are millions and millions of people who will want to play that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Good and interesting example, because Swifties are super cognizant of what is a real message from Taylor and what isn't, right? So
good use case. That'll be a great A/B test.
Good use
right?
case. I'm not sure that this is the target audience. And Jen is our resident Swiftie, and she has left the chat, so we will have to have her weigh in a bit.
Gotcha. I did have a couple of small stories that I wanted to make sure that we talked about today. Number one is Perplexity seems to be taking a page out of the OpenAI playbook when dealing with publishers. So they are planning to share ad revenue with various outlets. All right. Number one, while it's not unexpected, I was hoping we'd never see ads on Perplexity. And maybe if you own the Pro version, you won't. I don't know. But they see it as they're calling it the Perplexity Publishers Program. And essentially what they're trying to do is just get as many publishers on board as possible so that they can go into an ad share or rev share kind of program with them, because Perplexity, is simply saying, hey, we're going to index and search and pull this information. We agree that you should be part of that. Let's make it happen. They were specific about saying this is not a preferential choice, which is diametrically opposing what OpenAI's announced plan is. Where they're not going to give the publishers better treatment and putting them on priority for searching the information that's available, but they feel that this program is going to be a lot healthier overall for everyone. So that's their approach, but it is an agreement with publishers to promote their information being read or consumed through Perplexity, as opposed to their own sites and things like that. And I think it's probably a strong move for Perplexity, just so that there's an establishment. This is where the forgiveness portion of the ask for forgiveness, not permission mantra of big tech right now. So we'll see how it plays out. I think this is probably preferred for me anyways. Personally, I would prefer that it be an ad share as opposed to choosing the partners like OpenAI plans to for their sources of information. I want to get a little bit of everybody as opposed to just, the people who are paid most.
The only thing there that I know of, and there was a conversation, I think an interview with Sam Altman about what he thought about ads inside, where he was like, the experience of having ads in your search. So for me, just having a history in digital marketing, and this is one of the reasons why I subscribe to YouTube Premium, is I don't like the experience, especially when I'm searching, to have in the back of my mind thinking, is this truly generative, or has this been influenced because somebody paid for something that is now put up? So right. Like, so for me, I would rather, this is where I'm like, especially in that blog post where it says our main source of revenue or something in that regards from Perplexity was like, it'll be ad. I'm like, I am very, very hesitant to give you another $25 a month if that starts coming out, because I'm like, how good is Search GPT? And if Search GPT is 80-90% as good as Perplexity, I'm like, I'd rather have an experience that has none of that rather than some of that. And that just more for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Overall, holistically, yes, I don't want to have that influence my sources of information. But the OpenAI method is not any better, because if they're partnerships, right, with these organizations for information, and here are the top 5 payers, I'm getting only their information. That's who's got preferential treatment. That's the information that they're drawing from, right? So I don't see it as so if it's not an ad, then that means it's just integrated. Those are the 5 sources. I'm not getting the possibility of 100 sources. So
I think for me, I don't care. I really don't want the inside at all. And I'd rather just have it whatever, rather than, I think it's more of a personal preference. Like some people be like, oh, that's no problems. And obviously if you're in the free version, most likely you'll get whatever ads you're going to get. So it's an interesting concept, but if you look at it from a long-term perspective too, Perplexity doesn't have the user base, the money, or the valuation as an OpenAI. They don't.
True.
So how can they grow, and how can they get the revenue? Because as Sam Altman said, none of this matters. All of this doesn't matter. I could lose 50 billion, 100 billion, it doesn't matter. Their goal is AGI. That's not Perplexity's goal. So 2 very, very different goals, which means obviously you'll make decisions differently. So you can kind of tell where the decision making is gonna come from.
It's true. And to clarify a point, if I'm paying them for whatever the account, I don't want to see any ads. I don't want to see any preferential treatment. I want everything because I'm paying money. I get it if you're in a free account, understood. But if I'm paying, it's got to be completely open for me. But I'll leave it there. Beth, you said you had a couple more stories?
Yeah, just 2 art stories coming out. Midjourney dropped fairly quietly, dropped 6.1, and made it the default because they want the research of what people are experiencing when they're generating images. So, and it was fairly quiet. Like I did not hear a ton about this. So if you are generating images on Midjourney and you do not select a model, you are generating on 6.1. If you want to generate on 6 because you thought that was better, or 5.2 or whatever, you do have to do that that model specificity so that you can go back to that. And the other thing is that Runway Gen 3 has released Gen 3's image to video. And again, that's in the last couple of days, and it looks kind of amazing. Like, again, one of the benefits of image to video versus text to video is that you've already created an image you want, right? So you're starting from a place of like, this I like, and then you're adding some animation or some movement to it, some video to it, versus trying to get all of that out of a text prompt. And so super exciting.
I want to just mention quickly, we were talking about Perplexity. One of the nice things about Perplexity Pro, which is their paid version, is that you can select which of the latest models you want to use as the underlying LLM that's packaging together the answers that you're being delivered. And it already has Llama 3.1 405B. So you can choose from between two of the very best models, Claude 3.5 Sonnet or Llama 3.1 405B. There's the panel in which on Perplexity Pro, you select the model.
Awesome. All right. Well, unless anyone has anything else that they really need to cover today, I think we'll wrap up with that. Make sure to join us tomorrow for Is AI Better at Empathy Than Humans? And our Friday show, which is our bi-weekly wrap-up. So thanks for joining, everybody. See you tomorrow. Aloha.